Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Stepping Up to the Plate. So glad you could join me. I'm Michael Vega, your host. Glad to be joined on the dais by my main man, Al Prizzuti, and so much to discuss with a lot going on with the Bruins and the Celtics. And a quick shout out and wishing well wishes we're sending to the Milton High girls hockey team as they get ready to embark on the MIA state tournament. They will host Framingham Thursday at Ullin Rink, and so we want to wish Coach Matt Lodi and all the his players there well as they embark on the state tournament, and hopefully it's a deep run. And we'll get to talk a little bit about that later, but also so much going on, with spring training. We'll talk a little bit about that later, Al. NFL Combine coming up. A lot of rumors, starting to come out from there. But what has us by the lapels right now are the Celtics and the Bruins. The Bruins having come off a tremendous West Coast trip, undefeated, 5-0, Al. Unbelievable. And what a week.
4-0.
4-0, excuse me. I'm tacking on an extra win. That win last night seemed like an extra win. What a week, though, it has been for Linus Ullmark, the goalie, who on Saturday had a goalie goal, a rarity in all of hockey. Only 9 times in the history of the NHL has that ever happened. And it's never happened for the Bruins. And Linus sailed coast-to-coast puck, into the empty net, Now he's on the board. He's got the one next to his goal.
Well, he tried to score another one last night and almost got
yes,
burnt.
I saw that.
So,
But it wasn't an empty net. I think he was trying to get the puck out.
No, he was. He was just trying to get it out, but he passed it right.
But he's thinking snipe. It had such a wonderful effect on the team. They got to see him do the celly. He went through the line, and it was just a great pick me up for the team at that point in the trip. Fatigue kind of sets in with these back-to-backs. And so they go off, to play, who is the next game after that, Al? Edmonton. Tough Edmonton game against Connor McDavid, just a dangerous scorer.
If they had a defense and goaltending that the Bruins have got right now,
yes,
they would win. They're an offensive team, and Connor McDavid is.
Oh, that was a back and forth affair, that game,
McDavid's heads and above anybody when he's on the ice.
And you got Leon Draisaitl. Yeah, I mean, that's another one you got to watch out for too.
Good offensive team.
Really good offensive team. And then last night, again, Ullmark capping his week with an unbelievable career high 54 saves in a 4-3 overtime win for the Bruins. And it was just a magnificent performance by the Bees there, coming off a tough road trip, Al, And but well, I mean,
you go out west is not easy.
No, never easy.
And they're an interesting team because and I think Brick brought this up, when they don't play that well,
right,
they still find a way to stay in the game, stay in it, and then win. I mean, I'll give you an example. Last night, Calgary outplayed them the whole game. Montgomery said after the game, he said, Calgary, I couldn't believe how well they played. They're physical, for one, and they just are relentless, and so they outplayed the Bruins. Ullmark won the game, but 2 or 3 things happened last night that were fascinating. One is DeBrusque knocking those 2 guys down,
taking them out,
which now opened the ice up so that Zacha could score the 3rd goal.
Yeah.
Then they go into overtime, and you can say McAvoy scored the goal, but Marchand went around the net, lost the puck, picked the puck up, passed it to Bergeron, who then passed it to McAvoy
Bergeron's brilliant because he drew the defense over.
Well, you have to.
And they overplayed him, and then the goalie shifted over to his side, and it left the back door wide open.
You have to do that when you're talking 3-on-3, which is, I give kudos to the NHL for doing that, because a tie game at the end, I would always say, okay, 1 point, and I'd be still comfortable with that. But 3-on-3, is exciting.
It is. Oh, wow.
The shootout, they got to ban completely. To me, that's a waste of time. But 3-on-3, you have to win the draw.
Yeah.
If you lose the puck, then you control what happens. They go in the zone, they come out of the zone if they don't like what they see, and everybody's got to come back. I mean, watching that game last night, at the end, to say that the Bruins won, you'd scratch your head and say, how?
How? Yeah.
And I mean, you could say Linus Umark, you can say DeBrusk's hit, you could say Marchand.
It just seems like this team ramps up the intensity, Al. They ramp up their the performances in the matters that when it matters the most.
And Montgomery's got to get the most credit because they want to play for this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, they work the whole game, even when they're down. They don't lose sight of the fact that this is what we need to do, and they don't panic.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing. Having Foligno, who's got 10 goals, he had 2 last year, get hurt, and we don't know the extent of his injury. And then Taylor Hall has a lower body injury. They don't know if he's going to be able to come back for the game against Buffalo at home Thursday night. Could force Sweeney to do a trade.
But do you do that as a Band-Aid measure, or is this you're looking more long-term?
You know, this is, Brick brought it up again last night, who does a great job, incidentally, who said that, you get these 2 guys go down, it's attrition, and now all of a sudden you don't have 3 or 4 lines, you only have 2 good lines.
And you can't put all the,
And there's a number of guys on the team that I think that they could replace, although you don't want to upset a team that's 49-8-5.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
They've got
something right. 99
points.
They're
doing something right. You know what? They're doing something right in that room. They're connected. They're connected top to bottom. And that's the thing that's most important at this time of year, that you have that special connection. They're building an Al. To me, a team that plays with a sense of purpose, kind of stacks up meaningful wins on top of meaningful wins with meaningful performances. I hearken back to, the way this team came together with a lot of their stars out of the lineup, how they held down the fort with no McAvoy, no Marchand,
no Grizzly.
Then they're bringing back, Krejci into the fold. You've got Pavel Zacha coming in, and they're trying to, feel their way. Then you got a new coach. Yeah. You had a new coach, too, on top of all of that.
I'll tell you, though, I think Sweeney he's sent a signal out, though, that they want to win it this year.
I think,
and not build for the future. Because look at, they got Dmitry Orlov and Hathaway.
And everyone
gave up first, second, third draft picks.
And Craig Smith.
To me, Craig Smith was a way to get cap space off. I mean, he wasn't the player.
Add-on at there for Bruins,
he gives them now cap space. So I think the other thing, though, that if you look at this, the Bruins haven't drafted well anyways. So giving up those, I don't, to me.
Well, when you think about it, too, the Caps got cap space, too.
Oh, yeah, wow.
By dealing those 2 guys.
Well, Dmitry Orlov hadn't scored a goal since January, incidentally. He scored 2 goals last night. Why? Because Vladar, the goalie for Calgary,
overplays.
I mean, he should have stopped both of those. I mean, those were straight on. He could see them. I mean, there were rifles. There's no question about it. But that put them down 2-0.
Yeah.
And you're not going to come back from the Bruins right now at 2-0.
But they did.
I think the sign that Sweeney's saying is, if Foligno's out with a knee injury, and we don't know what extent yet, and Taylor Hall has a lower body injury, and we don't know the extent, they haven't come back and said he's going to play. And Sweeney's probably said, you know what, we're going to win it this year. If we can solidify and bring in somebody.
The window
to help.
is tightening. And you know what? It was mentioned, I think, early, probably mid-season, that he owes it to this team. Because guys came back, Krejci came back.
Yeah, for
Bergeron came back.
Nothing.
Correct.
Money. I mean, that's
they didn't shower them with big contracts. They sold them on the idea that if you guys are back, we're going to win this thing. You will lead us to the
I
cup,
don't know
and we're going
how.
to support you by bringing pieces together.
Well, I've been a hockey fan for 70 years.
Yeah.
Not to believe, but I don't know how anybody would have said that this team could win before the season started, saying this team has got all the tools to win the cup. Olmark has been a surprise.
Right.
Getting Pavel Zacha was a big move because he's a terrific player.
Well, I thought even before that, Taylor Hall was a big ad.
Well, Taylor Hall was in. I'm talking about
and
for
then
this
you get
year.
Hampus Lindholm, and we saw what he's about.
Yeah, I mean,
And so that kind of solidified your decor a little bit, at least the top pair, and that was the big concern there. You know, who are you going to bring in to solidify that?
But again,
deep pair?
if you believe defense and goaltending wins, the Bruins had a big question mark in
In
whether
both.
Swayman and Olmark were top notch.
specifically with McAvoy out to start the season,
So,
and you got a big playmaker.
so
in
who's going to
Marchand.
win the seven? We were talking about this before the show started. Who's going to win the seventh player? You got, in my opinion, three people who are going to win this or could win this. I think Olmark is the odds-on favorite to win it.
Yeah.
I think DeBrusk has got to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think Pavel Zacha's got to be in the conversation.
I think he might be the guy.
Well, because if you read the wording, though, as who played above what you think could have played, Olmark should win it.
Oh, you know what? Addendum. Nick Foligno.
Well, Foligno, Trent Frederick, they've got 10 guys that have scored over 10 goals.
Correct.
So
That's going to be a tough call out.
no, but take out Foligno, take out Zacha, take out, and you can go through that list of not Brandon Collar, but
No, he's not
DeBrusk.
Yeah.
Take those three out.
Who's left?
Travis Ullman. You lose the game, you lose him. Those three guys stay in. You don't win the cup.
Right.
So, and nobody would have said that.
Nobody,
No
yeah.
person ever said that this kid was that good of a goaltender.
No, and that's why he was let go. Why he
Playing for a
became
bad
available.
team
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
So somebody saw something, and
But
I think that you got to remember the
But Al,
Bruins.
his confidence is through the roof right now.
Yeah.
He feels like he could stop everything that they put on him. And
But
for the
he's got
most part, he
guys-
has been.
He's got guys coming. I mean, Brick talks about it all the time with the layers that the Bruins have.
Yeah.
When they've got, and Montgomery's system is they've got defensemen playing forward positions.
Yeah.
And when they are, he's got guys like Charlie Coyle, Taylor Hall, Trent Frederick, all coming back and back checking.
Yeah.
None better than Taylor Hall. He's all
Right.
over the ice. But Charlie Coyle, underrated.
Lindholm.
And Brick said it last night. He needs to shoot.
Lindholm.
No.
Taylor
Charlie,
Hall. Yeah.
Charlie
Oh,
Coyle
yeah.
and Taylor Hall. All these guys need to shoot.
Yeah.
One of the criticisms that I have is they all want to shoot. They all want to feed Pasternak.
They want to carry the puck into the zone and feed
and
the
feed
guys.
Pasternak. Well, Paster's over here. The goalie's here, and this guy's here, and he's got a shot in. Take the shot, get the rebound, and you got guys that'll pick up the junk and
Right.
score.
Right.
But they try to pass it to Pasta all the time.
Yes.
And he's a sniper.
Sometimes to their detriment because they're trying to thread a pass that gets picked or gets
Gets
deflected.
picked and the guy breaks in 2-on-1.
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that you don't want
Shoot
to
your shot.
look
I agree,
for
Al.
Pasta, but you
Shoot
got to
that
shoot
shot.
more.
Yeah, I would agree
You know?
wholeheartedly.
It doesn't go in if you don't shoot on the net.
And the other team that had a tremendous week as well, although it didn't end as well, was the Celtics with a couple of unbelievable performances from Jason Tatum.
Except for the last one.
Yeah, in Indiana. In Indiana, he had a nice putback that wins it for them. And then, of course, down in Philadelphia in an epic battle, against Joel Embiid and that team. I mean, Embiid is such a beast. What a beast. I mean, you could throw bodies at him, but he's just, I think, certainly MVP worthy candidate.
Well,
but
just think about
you had
what
Jason Tatum knocking, and that was a beautiful play by Joe Mazzulla at the end to diagram this inbounds play. Marcus Smart gets the inbounds pass, turns and makes a beautiful bounce pass to Tatum, who's running downhill from midcourt and gets a little, a stop back fade three-pointer, swish. I mean, leaves his hand. He knows it's good. But the problem is it left time for Philadelphia. And so they get it to Embiid. Embiid brings it up, spend a little bit too much time with the ball in his hand. And if he had let it fly out.
He's 3/4 of the way from the basket.
3/4 of the way. He hit nothing but net. I fell out of my chair when I saw that. But then when they did the replay.
He knew right away.
He knew it.
Because he turned and walked,
he walked
his head.
Walked off, yeah.
But imagine if that thing had gone in time.
Yeah. Oh,
that would have been probably one of the most spectacular ending shots of all time.
And it was on the same night that you had the goalie goal by Linus Ullmark. So probably one of the greatest nights in Boston history. It's just a spectacular games and endings and whatnot. But the Celtics, then they go to New York, and against a surging New York Knicks club, had some issues. They had some injuries. And then, guys did not play with poise. Jason Tatum gets ejected. But I think he was rightfully peeved when he goes in for a dunk, a two-handed dunk, and then he gets pushed from behind. So if he had let go of the rim, he's going down and hitting the back of his head.
Well, I think Jason Tatum and all of the basketball players and a lot of the hockey players complain about every foul.
Well, they
every
think
foul.
Well, yeah, you're right.
And with Jason Tatum on that case there, where he was complaining all the way down, he had a legitimate. But I'm saying they're not going to change the rule.
No.
But he complains all the way down, and I think that caused him to get ejected at the end because he's now miffed the umpires and ref. That happens with Marchand all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
All the time. So, I think what really killed him the night against the Knicks, though, was because Tatum is really the mainstay.
They had a poor shooting night.
But he was like, 4 for 16 from 3 points?
And they had guys like Julius Randle, really attack the rim. They gave up baskets like that.
The three-pointer can kill you. The three-pointer can win games for you. And when you're really not hitting them like they did the other night, especially Tatum, who'll take more of them. Right.
But I'm not gonna ever say don't shoot. That guy, he has to shoot.
Red Auerbach, when I read the book on him, he always said somebody would come back to me like Sam Jones and say, I haven't been able to hit my jumper. And what would Red say to him?
Well, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Keep taking them.
Right.
He said eventually they'll all fall. Right. Well, they'll fall, not all, but
they'll fall.
And that's the mentality that these guys have to have is look at I missed 5 in a row, passe. I'll get the next 4 or 5 and then I'll be a 50% shooter.
Right.
So, anyways.
But you had some unbelievable performances from guys up and down the lineup, and I have a sense this is probably just an aberration for them. They'll come back, and it's a tough road trip. They're teams that are getting better, Al.
I would say of those the 2 big teams in Boston right now, the Celtics and the Bruins, I would lean more towards saying the Bees could win the Cup than the Celtics could win the championship. I think they both have a good chance, which would be really interesting that around the same time would be parading all summer. Yeah. But anyways, if you were going to put, that's the other thing I'm getting a little tired of. I mean, FanDuel and this, who's going to win, how much are you going to bet on this? I mean, it's over the top. It's a funny thing about
pervasive
vice, if you want to talk about vice, gambling, drinking, smoking, all this crap. People want to do it.
Yeah.
And it sells.
Yeah.
And they have the show on, and I saw Arnold there talking to one of these women who tells you what the odds are on the over and unders, and people can't afford it, but they'll gamble.
Well, it was funny. There was
to Encore and see.
There was an over/under. Well, there's a parlay before the Celtics game against the Knicks, and it was Jason Tatum scoring 32.5 points. The Celtics would score 15 points before the Knicks did, and then I think there was another one where it was like an unbelievable. And if you bet 100, you get 800 back on that. Yeah. And there are people who say, "Oh yeah, well Jason Tatum will get 32.5." He got nowhere near it. And that's the thing. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, you know, I would never go in for that, you know.
You know, it's a funny thing. I was talking to a gentleman in the studio here before the show about announcers, and I would love. Too bad this isn't a type of call-in show to get people's opinions of Brick and Edwards,
Yeah.
who I think he's terrible. Edwards. I think Brick is terrific.
Well,
I think Scalabrini is good.
it's great.
I mean, he knows the
Brings
game.
energy. He brings energy.
And he brings a lot of energy to it, kind of like Brick does on the other side.
Right.
But the Celtic announcer is better than Edwards. Is just, I think, something missing there.
Yeah.
He's not Doc Emery, that's for sure.
No, he seems to be struggling right now with something going on. And, you know, it was funny because they showed like a game from 2019, and even his pregame warm-up was like smooth, very smooth. Yeah. Now it's like very stilted, and I'm wondering if it has to do with a medical issue with him that he's dealing with, or he's fighting through something, or.
But he wants to fool around a little too much instead of announcing the game, and Brick does just the opposite. He plays into it occasionally, but just the opposite. He talks about who's checking. Where they have to work in the third period if they're trailing.
Well, I think he's having to deliver a lot of the information that Jack Edwards can't right now.
Maybe.
I don't know. And that's whether he's probably covering up for him a little bit. And then you see it in postgame where, you know, he will stammer through a question to Montgomery, and Montgomery you can see him wincing, and then he'll throw it to Brick, and Brick asks a question and gets.
Well, the only thing that I looked at and we were talking about earlier was. And I feel like a dinosaur because I think about baseball announcers. I mean, guys like Kurt Gowdy, and I understand I'm in my 70s, but Gowdy was a terrific announcer. Mel Allen with the Yankees, Vin Scully.
Yeah.
I mean, there seemed to be but they announced
Joe Garagiola and Tony Kubek.
But they had really a way of bringing people into the game.
Yeah.
Talking about who should be covering second base on a throw, you know, and play that. They don't
we just
do that
lost
anymore.
one of those guys.
Yeah.
You know, Tim McCarver.
I know, but they don't do that enough. And if I think about like baseball, I like Mike Monaco. I think he does a great job. I think he's a better announcer or a good announcer.
For my money, give me Sean McDonough.
Well, Sean McDonough, I think, can
McDonough.
do basketball. He's done a great job on hockey.
Yeah.
He does a great job on football,
college football,
and baseball.
Yeah.
Don't forget, he was doing on the radio with the Red Sox.
He's so great on the radio too.
But he also tells people little things that you can't, especially on radio, because you can't see it.
He has unbelievable comic timing. You know,
radio is much more in an intuitive type thing where you have to tell people what they can't see.
Yeah.
When it's on baseball, sometimes like Kurt Gowdy used to say, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 and 2, the big one do.
Yeah.
I mean, little things like that, but still, because when you see it's 2 balls and 1 strike,
yeah,
you know.
But
a little different than 1 ball and 2
announcer,
strikes.
And you brought his name up, Doc Emmerich.
Oh, Doc Emmerich. Yeah.
You know, and the thing is that Doc Emmerich would weave a story inside the game detail he's giving you.
Pertinent to the situation in the game.
Yeah.
And that's a little different than going off on a
width and breadth
tangent
of
where
his
people
knowledge about a player, a team, their background, and it just adds so much width and breadth and brings to life a game.
Yeah.
You know, instead of making it a one-dimensional thing, it's more of a 3-dimensional.
That's what Scalabrini does, which I think is really good.
Yeah.
Is when he says, you look at the people who don't have the ball.
Right.
You know, he'll say his job is to, and he brings this, and now you get a better sense because we all watch who's going to score, who's shooting. And what you're not looking at is who's boxing out, who's picking up, moving without the ball.
Right. It gives you a better understanding of the game. And you see it in a different light.
It's more complex than the viewer sees.
Let me ask you this. Who, in your estimation, is that guy right now in professional football? Who is the guy that really informs you?
I'm not a Nance. I'm not.
You're not a Jim Nance guy?
No.
I mean, he's like a great announcer voice, you know.
Yeah, but he's a little. He's predictable. Let me put it that way. I thought Tony Romo
I thought Tony Romo.
when he first got in was much better than what he is now.
I'll tell you the guy. Well, he was on Monday Night Football with Louis Riddick.
Yeah.
Louis Riddick to me is a guy that's like, I mean, he brings all of that. He brings all of that.
Well, football's a complex game because, again, what we're looking at is the quarterback handing off to a running back or making a throw to an end. What you don't realize is the line.
The line play.
Is the quarterback getting
what
the
the quarterback
protection?
is looking at beyond the line of scrimmage, the coverages, how the defense is trying to disguise them.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a too high safety, are you looking at man coverage, or are you looking at a zone? Are you looking at a fire blitz? You know, that you're going to have to audible. I mean, it's a complex situation for a quarterback.
Well, see, but that's what people, no, I shouldn't say people because I'm generalizing, but that's what we all don't, we see what we want to see.
Right.
Okay, because the TV is zooming in on things like that, and the announcers are zooming in on things. It's what you don't see really is what makes football very complicated, probably more complicated than a lot of sports.
Yeah.
But when you watch golf, that's a different situation. That's not a team sport.
No.
Although the LIV is make it a team.
Cool.
But it was interesting because I watched golf this weekend in the short time we have. I watched both the LIV.
What were you entertained by? Which one?
I was just entertained by the concept of LIV because the players just are the same. So it to me, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. The concept was different. That's what kind of dragged me into watching the LIV.
So is the LIV going to be going up against the players?
No, I don't.
Are they going to go head-to-head against the players?
Maybe, but I don't know. Just on the short time we have left, I did watch the Red Sox. I've been watching the Red Sox.
Yeah.
First of all, there's where you need a program to figure out who these guys are. But Tristan had finally
Tristan Casas
hit a 3-run. He hit a home run. He had a double.
Yeah.
And then the things that are happening in this game are amazing. Now, if you can only throw twice over to first base, you know.
Good, please.
Well, if you do it a third time, it's a balk.
Right.
even if you're trying to get the runner who's taking the lead. And then the other night when the game ended, because it was 6-6, I think at that time, bases loaded. The batter's up there. He stepped out of the box. He comes back in. Too much time.
Strike.
Well, it wasn't a strike. If ball 4, he starts to walk down to first base. The game would have been over, and the umpire calls him out because he took too much time.
Wow. Does the umpire have like a clock?
He must have. It must have a bell that goes off. But.
Well, that's what we have to look forward to in this spring training and the baseball season coming up. There'll be games decided like that, but unbelievable. Well, I want to thank you for joining us here and invite you to come back next week. And hopefully we'll have a special show lined up. But we'll be looking forward to being with you here next time on Stepping Up to the Plate. Take care, everybody.